All right, expansion. So we're up to Detroit. You'll notice I've got this logo on the board. I'm wearing the hat, the Detroit Falcons, Detroit Cougars. There was some fun stuff Detroit's done in the past. And I'm wearing their Winter Classic jersey, which was kind of a fun. See how the logo looks different, and yet it's still Red Wings. It's not like we can't tell that it's a Red Wings logo. So the reverse retro, just throwing that out there. And I know people are going to say, "Oh, you're just why do you have to pick on Detroit?" Because I know what they can do. Detroit can do really nice ones. I was debating about this one or the stadium jersey. The stadium jersey they wore against Colorado was gorgeous. A beautiful jersey. So, yes, Detroit can make really, really nice jerseys. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with the expansion. So, if you're going through the expansion tool with Cap Friendly, there's a mistake on there. Mark Stahl has a no movement clause. Now, when he was traded, that went with him. After the new collective bargaining agreement, things changed. So what used to happen was if you waived your no movement clause to go to another team, that clause was now null and void. You'd voided it. That no longer happens. So that no movement clause is still in place, and so they have to protect him. Though if you go through the cap friendly tool, he doesn't show as being protected. You can expose him. But I will say this. If Stahl is somebody they have to protect, I have a feeling that Yzerman either calls Seattle or he figures something else out. Stahl's contract is up at the end of 2021, and we'll see what happens with Mark Stahl in terms of Detroit. He may end up calling Vegas, saying, look, what do we have to give up in order for you guys to take this contract from us? Well, it's nice you're calling us. Getting a lot of calls today here in Las Vegas. So, their protected list, up front, it's kind of easy to come up with. And again, I did 7 forwards and 3 defensemen. Although you could maybe make an argument for 4 forwards, 4 defensemen. So, Larkin, Mantha, Bertuzzi, absolutely got to. Filppula, Fabry, Rasmussen, and Svechnikov. This is where it gets interesting. So, you could argue, hey, Danny DeKeyser is showing up on the exposed list. We don't like that. Right. So let's say you did 4 forwards. Larkin, Mantha, Bertuzzi, and Fabry, or is Evgeny Svechnikov still in the plans? So if they did 4 and 4, you'd have Larkin, Mantha, Bertuzzi, and I would think Fabry or Rasmussen. Rasmussen's still a first-round draft pick, right? They've got to protect him. So you would think that would be your 4. Are you okay with Fabry being exposed in order to keep DeKeyser? You only lose 1 player, so how is this going to work? On the blue line, I protected Stahl because of the no movement clause. And again, that could change. And then you bring DeKeyser over here and you're okay. Hronik, obviously, and Lindstrom. Lindstrom, to me, has to be protected. At all costs, you have to protect Lindstrom. And I protected Greiss, though between the 2 goalies, you can kind of flip a coin. Greiss has an extension, or has a contract through next year as well. Greiss may very well be the one that's exposed because that meets the exposure requirement. Bernier may be the one protected. You can flip them. I don't think Detroit loses a goalie in this expansion. So who gets exposed? Nielsen. Bad contract. Can't see Seattle picking it up. Helm, much the same. And if somebody's going to put in, well, these contracts are up in 2021. Most contracts are up in 2021. Go look through any team on Cap Friendly. Most contracts are up in 2021. We have a lot of contracts up. Things are going to get really interesting next summer. Nemesnikov, Ryan, Hirose, and Giovanni Smith. Giovanni Smith is an interesting one because I don't think he necessarily gets protected. Now, it's potentially possible he does, and that they expose Filppula. Because, again, they may look at his contract and at his age and say, you know what, Filppula, they're not going to take him anyways. We'll protect Giovanni Smith and not worry about him going anywhere. Because he could be an interesting addition for Seattle. He's got the physicality, he's got the defensive aspect of his game, and there are some who think he's got the offensive upside as well, that he may score a little more at the NHL level than we're expecting right now. And with Yzerman, he may be very, concerned about protecting the young kids, maybe at the expense of losing a veteran to Seattle. I'd be completely okay with that. And again, Filppula probably not going to get taken by Seattle. So I just protected Filppula as likely. Giovanni Smith's out there, but we can all discuss that at a later date. On the blue lines where it gets interesting. So what you end up exposing, if Stahl is still no movement clause, you got Hronik and Lindstrom. If we can all agree Lindstrom's the one you got to protect because he looks fantastic defensively. That leaves DeKeyser, Nemeth, Stetcher, Merrill, and Chalowski. as defensemen who could potentially be on their way out. Cholowski's a fascinating one right there because he was seen as a can't miss not too long ago. Very young, good contract, restricted free agent at the very worst of it. And so Seattle, that may be where they look as well. But again, does Yzerman figure out something and maybe protect Cholowski, find a way to get out from under Stahl's no movement clause, and expose to Kaiser and Stahl? I don't know. Because again, the options there. Mark Stahl can waive the no movement clause. And he is still a guy who's UFA in 2021. If they don't sign him to an extension, it is not an attractive option for Seattle to pick up. If they add a year to his contract, it makes him a more attractive option to pick up. I don't know that he's the best option from Detroit. And of course, in net, Bernier or Greiss. Flip them if you want. I would not be surprised if Bernier signs a 1-year extension some point over the next 6 months as well. Watch for a lot of guys to sign extensions because, again, if you're Seattle, of the 30 players you're taking, 20 of them have to have contracts that extend into the 2021-2022 season. That way you're not seeing a team just pick up a bunch of guys who are going to be UFA, watch them all leave, and then add a bunch of free agents. So this is, the NHL wants to make sure there's some integrity with all this, and so watch for Detroit to maybe extend some contracts on these guys with the idea that Seattle's more likely to take them. I think the blue line's where it's interesting. Stetcher would be very interesting in Seattle, right? As a Vancouver fan, how would you feel about Stetcher ending up being a member of the Kraken next year if that's where Seattle ends up going? With Ron Francis, there isn't really anybody on the list that I think Ron Francis would necessarily look at from his experience in Carolina and say, well, that's the guy I want. But we'll see. Should be very interesting. What do you think Detroit does? Because they have some options. Again, with Stahl, he could just waive his no-move clause. Players are going to, but you can't assume, right? Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.